Sanbonani, Ninjani. How are you guys doing? I hope you're still having a good year. Hope you still have a good year, guys. On my side, there's nothing much to raise, nothing much to complain about, guys. Nothing much to complain about. We're still hustling, still trying to make the best of it, guys. Okay. Guys, today we're going to be dealing with chapter 10 of the Basic Conditions of Employment, which deals with the monitoring, enforcement, and legal proceedings. So we're going to do part A of the Basic Conditions of the chapter 10 of the Basic Conditions of Employment, which is the monitoring, enforcement, and legal proceedings. Okay, guys. All right, let's get to it, guys. Okay, thank you very much, guys, for subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much for viewing this video. Please do share it on your social media platforms. Do share it. It can be Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp. Those of you not yet subscribed, please do subscribe. And thank you very much to those who have already subscribed. Okay, guys, let's get to it. Chapter 10 of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. Monitoring, enforcement, and legal proceedings. Part A. Monitoring and enforcement. Appointment of labor inspectors. 1. The minister may appoint any person in the public service as a labor inspector. B. Designate any person in the public service or any person appointed as a designated agent of a bargaining council in terms of Section 33 of the Labor Relations Act 1995 to perform any of the functions of a inspector. Right. All right, thank you very much. Okay, apologies for that, guys. Okay, let's continue. B. Designate any person in the public service or any person appointed as a designated agent of a bargaining council in terms of Section 33 of the Labor Relations Act 1995. Perform any of the functions of a labor inspector. Right. Number 2. Any person appointed under subsection 1 must perform his or her functions in terms of this chapter, subject to the direction and control of the minister. 3. The minister must provide each labor inspector with a signed certificate in the prescribed form stating A. That the person is a labor inspector, B. Which legislation that the labor inspector may monitor and enforce, and C. Which of the functions of a labor inspector that person may perform. Functions of the labor inspectors. Right. 1. Labor inspectors appointed under Section 63, subsection 1 may promote, monitor, and enforce compliance with an employment law by A. Advising employees and employers of their rights and obligations in terms of an employment law. B. Conducting inspections in terms of this chapter. C. Investigating complaints made to a labor inspector. D. Endeavoring to secure compliance with an employment law by securing undertakings or issuing compliance orders. And E. Performing any other prescribed function. 2. A labor inspector may not perform any function in terms of this act in respect of an undertaking in respect of which the labor inspector has or may reasonably be perceived to have any personal, financial, or similar interest. Powers of entry. 1. In order to monitor and enforce compliance with an employment law, a labor inspector may, without warrant or notice at any reasonable time, enter any workplace or any other place where an employer carries on business or keeps employment records that is not at home. B. Any premises used for training in terms of the Manpower Training Act 1981, Act number 56 of 1981. Or C. Any private employment office registered under Section 15 of the Guidance and Placement Act 1981, Act number 62 of 1981. Right. 2. A labor inspector may enter a home or any place other than the place referred to in subsection 1 only A. With the consent of the owner or occupier, or B. If authorized to do so in writing in terms of subsection 3. Number 3, the Labor Court may issue an authorization contemplated in subsection 2 only on written application by a labor inspector who states under oath or affirmation that the reasons for the need to enter a place in order to monitor or enforce compliance with any employment law. 4, if it is practical to do so, the employer and the trade union representative must be notified that the labor inspector is present at the workplace and of the reason for the inspection. Right. Powers to question and inspect. Number 1. In order to monitor or enforce compliance with an employment law, a labor inspector may A. Require a person to disclose information either orally or in writing, and either alone or in the presence of witnesses, or any matter to which an employment law relates, and require that the disclosure be made under oath or affirmation. B. Inspect and question a person about any record or document to which an employment law relates. C. Copy any record or document referred to in paragraph B, or remove these to make copies or extracts. D. Require a person to produce or deliver to a place specified by the labor inspector any record or document referred to in paragraph B for inspection. E. Inspect, question a person about, or if necessary, remove any article, substance, or machinery present at a place referred to in section 65. F. Inspector question any person about any work performed and perform any other prescribed function necessary for monitoring or enforcing compliance with an employment law. 2. A labor inspector may be accompanied by an interpreter and any other person reasonably required to assist in conducting the inspection. 3A. Labor inspector must A. Produce on request the certificate referred to in section 63 subsection 3. B. Provide a receipt for any record, document, article, substance, or machinery removed in terms of subsection 1C or E, and C. Return anything removed within a reasonable period of time. 4. The powers provided for in this part are in addition to any power of a labor inspector in terms of any other employment law. Cooperation of labor inspectors. Any person who is questioned by a labor inspector in terms of section 66 must answer all relevant questions lawfully, put to that person truthfully, and to the best of his or her ability. 2. Every employer and each employee must provide any facility and assistance at the workplace that is reasonably required by a labor inspector to perform the labor inspector's functions effectively. Securing an undertaking. A labor inspector who has reasonable grounds to believe that an employer has not complied with any provision of this act must endeavor to secure a written undertaking by the employer to comply with the provision. 2. In endeavoring to secure the undertaking, the labor inspector A. may seek to obtain agreement between the employer and employee as to any amount owed to the employee in terms of this act. B. may arrange for payment to an employee of any amount paid as a result of an undertaking. C. may at a written request of an employee receive payment on behalf of the employee. And D. must provide a receipt for any payment received in terms of paragraph C. Compliance order. A labor inspector who has reasonable grounds to believe that an employer has not complied with a provision of this act may issue a compliance order. 2. A compliance order must set out A. the name of the employer and the location of every workplace to which it applies. B. Any provision of this act that the employer has not complied with and details of the conduct constituting non-compliance. C. Any amount that the employer is required to pay to an employee. D. Any written undertaking by the employer in terms of section 68 subsection 1 and any failure by the employer to comply with a written undertaking. E. Any steps that the employer is required to take, including, if necessary, the cessation of the contravention in question and the period within which those steps must be taken. And F. The maximum fine that may be imposed upon the employer in accordance with Schedule 2 for a failure to comply with a provision of this Act. 3. A labor inspector must deliver a copy of the compliance order to the employer named on it and to each employee affected by it, or if this is impractical, a representative of the employees. 4. The employer must display a copy of the compliance order prominently at a place accessible to the affected employees at each workplace named in it. 5. An employer must comply with the compliance order within the time period stated in the order unless the employer objects in terms of Section 71. Limitations. A labor inspector may not issue a compliance order in respect of any amount payable to an employee as a result of a failure to comply with a provision of this Act if A. The employee is covered by a collective agreement that provides for resolution by arbitration or disputes concerning amounts owing in terms of this Act. B. The employee is employed in a category of employees mentioned in Section 6, subsection 1A, or in a respect of which a notice has been issued in terms of Section 6, subsection 3. C. Any proceedings that have been instituted for the recovery of that amount, or if proceedings have been instituted, those proceedings have been withdrawn, or D. That amount has been payable for longer than 12 months. Objections to compliance order. An employer may object to a compliance order by making representations in writing to the Director General within 21 days of receipt of that order. 2. If the employer shows good cause at any time, the Director General may permit the employer to object after the period of 21 days has expired. 3. After considering any representations by the employer and any other relevant information by the Director General, the Director General A. may confirm, modify, or cancel an order or any part of an order, and B. must specify the period within which the employer must comply with any part of an order that is confirmed or modified. 4. The information that the Director General must consider includes A. Any evidence concerning the employer's compliance record, B. the likelihood that the employer was aware of the relevant provisions, and C. the steps taken by the employer to ensure compliance with the relevant provision. 5. The Director General must serve a copy of the order made in terms of subsection 3 on the employer and on each employee affected by it, or if this is impractical, on a representative of the employees. In this case, normally it becomes the trade union. 6. If the Director General confirms or modifies the order or any part of the order, the employer must comply with that order within the period specified in that order. Appeals from order of Director General. An employer may appeal to the Labour Court against an order of the Director General within 21 days of receipt of that order. 2. The order is suspended pending the final determination of the appeal by the Labour Court or any appeal from the Labour Court. 3. If the employer shows good cause at any time, the Labour Court may permit the employer to appeal after the period of 21 days has expired. Order may be made order of the Labour Court. Right? The Director General may apply to the Labour Court for a compliance order to be made an order of the Labour Court in terms of Section 158, subsection 1C of the Labour Relations Act 1995. If the employer has not complied with the order and has not lodged an objection against the order in terms of Section 71, subsection 1. 2. The Director General may apply to the Labour Court for an order of the Director General in terms of Section 71, subsection 3 to be made an order of the Labour Court in terms of Section 158, subsection 1C of the Labour Relations Act 1995 if the employer has not complied with the order and has not appealed against the order in terms of Section 72, subsection 1. For the purpose of Section 158, subsection 1C of the Labour Relations Act 1995, a compliance order or an order in terms of section 71 subsection 3 is deemed to be an arbitration award. We will leave it there for now, guys. The next week we'll continue with chapter 10, but part B. For now, that was part A that we're dealing with. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Please, guys, do share this video on different social media platforms. Please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, guys. Makhanye.